Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. I'm Chris Palmer, MLA for Kings West, and I'm the chair of this committee. So today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we will hear from Invest Nova Scotia, Ignite Atlantic, the Centre for Entrepreneurship, Education and Development, and Futurpreneur regarding supports for entrepreneurs. So at this point, I'd like to ask everybody to please put your phones to silence so we don't have any disruptions. And please be sure not to touch your microphone. The staff will help you if anything needs adjusting. So I'd like to ask all of our committee members to please introduce themselves for the record by stating their name and constituency, and we'll begin with Vice Chair Burns.
Rick Burns, MLA for Hemmons Plains, Lucasville.
Melissa Sheehy-Richard, welcome. I'm the MLA for Hants West.
Welcome everyone. Danny McGillivray, MLA for Pictou Centre.
Allegory Father, MLA for Clayton Park West.
Paul Wozni, MLA Sackville-Cobequid.
Rod Wilson, Halifax Armdale.
Good afternoon, Derek Marquette, Sydney Member 2.
Thank you, and for the purposes of Hansard, I also recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Killian Schlemmer to my right, and Legislative Committee Clerk Judy Kavanagh also to my right. And she doesn't get a lot of mentions in our committees, but she does a lot of work for us behind the scenes. So I'd also like to recognize Sherry Mitchell, behind me over here, Administrative Support Clerk for our committees. So thank you, Sherry. And at this point, we'd like to ask our guests to indulge us as we just do a little bit of committee business, as we do some appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions. So I'd like to look to MLA Sheehy-Richard for our first motions, please.
Thank you, Chair. For the Department of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage, I move to recommend Sarah O'Toole be appointed as member to the Arts Nova Scotia Board. Motion
on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is approved. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Finance and Treasury Board, Minister responsible for the Liquor Control Act, I move to recommend Ryan Sharp and Colleen Keys be appointed as directors to the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation Board of Directors.
Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Carolyn LeBlanc be appointed as member to the Board of Nova Scotia College of Chiropractors.
Do you want to finish all the department, or do you just want to do one at a time? What's your motion? So we have other nominees for the Department of Health and Wellness. You want to do each one of those at a time? You can do one single. Okay. So can you repeat your first motion, MLA Sheehy-Richard?
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Carolyn LeBlanc be appointed as member to the Board of the Nova Scotia College of Chiropractors.
Motion on the table. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Those opposed? Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Tony Boudreau and Nina Snyder be appointed as member, public representative to the Board of the Nova Scotia Occupational Therapy Regulator.
Motion on the table. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Sheehy-Richard.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Phoebe Mandre and Diana Reed Baird be appointed as public representative to the Nova Scotia Board of Examiners in Psychology.
Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I move to recommend Dr. Ashfaq Jawani as appointed for the member Dental Association to the Provincial Board of Nova Scotia.
Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Labour, Skills and Immigration, I move to recommend Mark Baker, Timothy Gillis, and Bruce Lake be appointed as member, employer representative to the Occupational Health and Safety Advisory Council.
Okay. Motion on the table. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Labour, Skills and Immigration, I move to recommend Charles Jason McGuinness, Merle Avis Domenka and Andrew Roof as appointed as member employee representative to the Occupational Health and Safety Council. Advisory Council.
All those in favor of the motion, motion on the table, any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, I move to recommend Paul Kehoe be appointed as member, employee representative, and designated co-chair to the Occupational Health and Safety Advisory Council.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
As well, for the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, I move to recommend Dan Brown be appointed as member, employee representative, and designated co-chair to the Occupational Health and Safety Advisory Council.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration, I move to recommend Heather Cruikshank be appointed member, employee representative to the Workers' Compensation Board of Nova Scotia.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Natural Resources, I move to recommend Charles Blanchard and Derek Killen be appointed members to the Shubenacadie Canal Commission.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. And MLA Burns.
For the Department of Public Works, I recommend Victoria Harnish be appointed chair and member to the Halifax-Dartmouth Bridge Commission.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Public Works, I move to recommend Richard MacLean as the member, Halifax-Dartmouth Bridge Commission.
Motion on the table, discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. So thank you, committee members, for that. And we will now move on to our meeting topic for this afternoon. We'd like to welcome all of our guests here to the chamber. It's a little different setup for us here today, so please bear with us if we have a few little technical issues we have to deal with, but it's great to have you in the People's House today. So I'd like to ask all of our guests, before we get into our opening statements, just to do a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll get into opening statements. So I guess what we'll do, we'll begin with Mr. Anshan on the end.
Thank you very much. My name is Micah Anshan. I'm the Senior Director of Partnerships at Futurpreneur Canada.
Thank you. My name's David Eisnor. I'm the Regional Team Lead Atlantic with Futurpreneur.
Good afternoon. I'm Craig MacMullin, President and CEO of the Centre for Entrepreneurship, Education and Development.
Good afternoon. Wes Surrett, COO at Ignite Atlantic.
Good afternoon. Wanda MacLean, Manager of Regional Business Development with Invest Nova Scotia.
And hello, I'm Dawn House. I'm Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Business Growth at Invest Nova Scotia.
Thank you very much. So we'd like to give you an opportunity to provide an opening statement to our committee before we begin questions. And we'll go in the opposite order for our opening statements. I believe, Ms. House, you have some opening remarks you'd like to give?
Thank you. Yes. Good afternoon. As I said, I am Dawn House, Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Business Growth at Invest Nova Scotia, and I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the conversation here today. In my role, I lead a team dedicated to helping companies grow in all regions of the province. Our work with entrepreneurs often begins with our team of regional business development advisors. This team lives and works in the regions across the province and serves as the first point of contact for businesses looking for help with their growth plans. These advisors help companies navigate the many supports available in our ecosystem, guiding them to our programs and services and to those offered by our partners. Invest Nova Scotia's programs and services help businesses at every stage of their journey. Beginning with startups, we're focused on supporting early-stage technology companies addressing global problems. One way we do that is by making venture capital investments in companies. We also give these entrepreneurs access to incubation facilities and acceleration programs to help them scale. To build on this momentum, we help entrepreneurs develop essential business skills through a variety of educational resources they can use to grow both here at home and beyond our borders. Reaching and selling to new markets is on everyone's minds. It always has been for us at Invest Nova Scotia, and now more than ever. We have many supports in place to help, including a team of export development executives who work one-on-one with companies in key sectors. We also offer programming, like our Export Development Program, which provides funding to help entrepreneurs travel to new markets or hire expertise to overcome a specific export challenge. To be competitive in global markets, Nova Scotia companies need to drive innovation and productivity, and making capital investments to do that has never been more important. But we know making those investments isn't easy. Our Innovation Rebate Program helps with this. It provides financial incentives for projects that help companies increase production. Those are just a few of the ways that we provide direct support to Nova Scotia exceptional entrepreneurs. We also work alongside government departments, accelerators and incubators, and other organizations that provide support to businesses, fostering innovation and creating the conditions to help companies grow and thrive in every community in Nova Scotia. Thank you again for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you very much. I believe Mr. Surrett, you'll have some opening remarks as well.
Giving us the time to be here today. Ignite Atlantic are the rural innovation centers. We have a location in Yarmouth, we have one in Pictou County, and soon one coming to Cape Breton. It was founded by our CEO, Doug Jones, who was an inventor and a successful entrepreneur, and he founded the organization to help others have the same success he did, even though based in a rural location. And what we try to do is provide those same supports, those same resources to rural entrepreneurs as you'd get as an entrepreneur right down in downtown Halifax here. We focus on 4 pillars. The first and the most important is the entrepreneurs and the startups we have. We have fabulous co-working spaces where folks can work together and network together. We have some great equipment, 3D printers, photography equipment, podcast studios, anything to help those entrepreneurs in those early stages of their business. As we often say, we deal with a variety of startups in our spaces, and we don't pretend to be the experts on every single field there is. We deal with Main Street service businesses, we deal with tech companies, we have a little bit of everything that comes through our doors, and we do our best to service them all. Like I said, we're not experts in everything, but we're very good at supporting entrepreneurs and helping them navigate through the ecosystem, which sometimes there's a lot of players involved. Sometimes it's one conversations with entrepreneurs, sometimes we house them and they stay in regular contact with us and we coach them through, and those are who we consider our resident companies in our spaces. We also have youth programs that we deliver focused on entrepreneurship and innovation with great partners. Most of them are in the form of camps, and really to expose youth to those things they may not see otherwise in the regular education. We have a community pillar where we help. I think our secret sauce a lot of the time is that community engagement piece, bringing innovative speakers, bringing different presentations to our communities. If there's local startups that want to engage with fishermen, for example, in a certain area, or traditional industries, we're able to help bring those folks together in our communities. And we do a lot of work with different industries. When industry has a problem, a lot of the time they'll come to us and we'll help them with different challenges, like the Sobeys Plastic Waste Challenge. We do a tourism innovation pitch competition across the province. We've worked with lobster bait, different challenges. So those are the different ways we engage, and glad to be here and happy to converse more.
Thank you, Mr. Surrett. Mr. MacMullin, I believe you have remarks.
Thank you. The Centre for Entrepreneurship, Education and Development, or CEED, has been around for almost 30 years. While many people associate CEED solely with startup support, that's just the beginning of what we do. At its core, CEED is committed to the entire life cycle of entrepreneurship, from the first idea through growth and scaling to the eventual transition or exit of a business. In 2024, we served almost 1,500 entrepreneurs across the province. We begin working with entrepreneurs as early as the ideation stage. For example, our innovative program supports those who may have a viable piece of technology or concept but need help transforming it into a commercial product through facilitated design thinking sessions and peer-to-peer support. Once the product idea is refined, our incubator program for Main Street businesses or our Launchpad program for technology-based businesses steps in to help shape a viable and sustainable business model. Both programs involve stress testing ideas, dismantling assumptions, and using proven tools to validate hypotheses. After these programs, Main Street businesses are ready to launch, and technology-based businesses are ready for transition to an accelerator. Our programming is offered province-wide, either in collaborative cohorts or customized one-on-one formats tailored to the entrepreneur's pace. For individuals associated with the employment insurance program, the incubator program forms the basis of our self-employment program funded by Employment Nova Scotia. We recognize that support can't end with the startup phase. Many established businesses encounter serious challenges scaling up or aligning their operations with the founder's goals. In response, CEED created the SME Accelerator. This program helps entrepreneurs reimagine their businesses by diagnosing problems, setting new visions, and mapping steps to reach those goals. Looking ahead, we're introducing a new value acceleration program this year, an exit planning program to help business owners prepare their businesses for transition. Too often, businesses are successful, but not saleable, leading to closures or poorly executed exits. We aim to change that by helping entrepreneurs turn their companies into transferable financial assets. Behind it all is our expert team, ready to support entrepreneurs province-wide with specialized knowledge in finance, marketing, coaching, international business, exit planning, and more. Normally, access to this level of expertise would be cost prohibitive for many new and existing businesses, but CEED makes it available for a fraction of the cost. The loan program which we operate, which is not operated on a provincial basis, is our lending program. In Halifax, Dartmouth, and Bedford, CEED acts as a lender, offering unsecured loans of up to $50,000 at prime plus 2% to startups and expanding businesses. But financing and programs alone aren't enough. We also invest in mentorship. Our elevated mentorship program, developed with Mindframe Connect and Endpoint, trains both mentors and mentees prior to starting a mentoring relationship to ensure productive, mutually beneficial outcomes. Elevate Mentorship has moved past the pilot stage and is preparing for a provincial rollout. Finally, accessibility to information and support is key. That's why we built the Hub NS, an online platform where entrepreneurs can connect, learn, and grow through resources, discussions, and CEED's extensive network of in-demand expertise. And in addition, in April, CEED launched its first AI program. CEED Biz Assist is an AI navigation tool designed to assist businesses in navigating the multiple layers of legislation involved in starting a business. At CEED, we believe in a vibrant Nova Scotia where everyone has the opportunity to realize their entrepreneurial potential. I look forward to your questions and to building that future together.
Thank you, Mr. MacMullin. Mr. Eisnor.
To the chair and members of the committee, thank you for having us today. We're both honored to be here today to talk about Futurpreneur's work supporting young entrepreneurs across Nova Scotia and to thank you for our ongoing successful partnership. I'll ask to move the slide forward. Futurpreneur's mission is to empower diverse entrepreneurs ages 18 to 39 by providing loans with mentorship and resources to help them start and buy successful businesses that contribute to the sustainable and inclusive economic prosperity in their communities and across the province. I'll ask you to move the slide forward to see our model, and one more time, please. We do this through our free resources with loan and mentorship programs, including our starter program, our side hustle program, our Black Entrepreneur Startup Program, and our Indigenous Entrepreneur Startup Program. In partnership with the BDC, these programs provide up to $75,000 in collateral-free financing with 2 years of mentorship. We're proud to support entrepreneurs anywhere in the province, including on reserve, with staff that can provide service in either French or English based on the entrepreneur's language preference. I'll pass it to my colleague.
Mr. Anshan.
Thank you very much. If we can move to the next slide, please. Our work is more important than ever in the face of growing economic uncertainty and with only 38% of business owners in Canada being under 50 years old. We are proud of how we help young entrepreneurs succeed, with 80% stating that they never would have started a business without our support or would have grown slower or smaller. 69% of the businesses that Futurpreneur supports are still thriving after 6 years in business, which is 30% higher than the national survival rate. And this speaks to the importance of mentorship and the additional resources that we provide. Next slide, please. Since our inception in 1996, Futurpreneur has supported over 690 businesses across Nova Scotia, providing over $18 million in loan capital over that time. Each year, we're proud to share that Futurpreneur-supported businesses contribute over $156 million to Nova Scotia's GDP. Next slide, please. Over the last 5 years, so since April 2020, Futurpreneur has supported 126 new businesses with a total of more than $4.2 million in collateral-free loan capital, providing a significant return on investment to the province over that time, a return on investment of more than 6.4 to 1 on the province's investment in Futurpreneur. Of the businesses supported over the last 5 years, we're proud to share that 12 are Black-led businesses, 4 are Indigenous-led businesses, 61 are women-led businesses, and 39, or approximately 30%, are businesses based outside of Halifax, demonstrating our capacity to support equity-deserving entrepreneurs and rural entrepreneurs through our programs. The Government of Nova Scotia's support is amplified many times over thanks to our long-term partnerships with the Government of Canada and our many corporate sponsors. Thank you again for your ongoing support, and we look forward to answering any of your questions.
So thank you all for your opening comments. We will now move into the question period for our members to be able to ask questions to you. As per the order of the committee, the first 20 minutes will be for the official opposition, then there'll be 10 minutes for the Liberal Party, and then 30 minutes for the Government Caucus. And then after that, whatever time is left over, we'll split that accordingly as well. We will have questioning till 1 or 2:45, so we will begin at this point with our NDP Caucus and Mr. Wozni, MLA Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few questions for folks present from Invest Nova Scotia. One of Invest Nova Scotia's high growth sectors is film and television production. We've heard in the past, a couple days, the United States may place a 100% tariff on all international films, including those made in Canada. Can you outline what steps Invest Nova Scotia will take to support this industry if these tariffs come into effect?
So I will look for direction from our two representatives from Invest to let me know who would be answering each question as it comes. So, Ms. House. Ms. House?
Yes, hi. I actually cannot speak to that. I can speak all day about the support that we're providing SMEs and startups in Nova Scotia, as well as some companies that are more established on the export side, but we're not directly involved in that sector currently. Now, certainly our programs would be open to companies that would be on the export side of that business, but not directly with film and television. So,
Emily Wozni.
Sorry.
Okay. No, we were just. That question flows from documents at Invest Nova Scotia that flags film and television production as a high growth sector. And given recent announcements by the provincial government about the growth of that sector, sort of the return to health after some hard times under the previous government, there are grave fears that such a tariff may have an immediate negative impact that destabilizes a sector that is only just returning to health. So perhaps, given the recency of the announcement on tariffs, there may not have been opportunity to turn their mind towards that, but that's a question I think is one that Invest Nova Scotia needs to turn its mind to in a timely way. Perhaps there's not an answer that can be given there, but I just want to raise that as a concern.
Ms. House?
I just wanted to, I think historically the organization was more involved in that sector, but that area of activity is now with Culture and Heritage Department.
MLA Wozni?
Moving on to some questions about the seafood industry in Nova Scotia. The impact of U.S. tariffs is obvious to anybody paying attention. Perhaps slightly less obvious are Chinese tariffs that have come into place, and of note because of efforts by the previous government to promote exports of Nova Scotian seafood to Chinese markets. And this is another one of Nova Scotia's key growth areas. I'm wondering if you can outline the conversations about what sector-specific supports are needed.
Ms. MacLean.
And can you repeat just that last piece, if you don't mind?
MLA Wozni.
I'm just looking to see if you can outline the conversations Invest Nova Scotia is involved with about what sector-specific supports are needed in response to both U.S. and Chinese tariffs on seafood.
Ms. MacLean.
Yes, thank you. So certainly, as Ms. House had identified or mentioned in her earlier comments, diversification of markets for in a number of sectors has always been priority for us, and identifying new markets. Seafood, obviously, such a big exporter in Nova Scotia to the U.S. We've certainly spent some significant time working with seafood producers, harvesters, processors, and dedicated, a focus on seafood to work with those companies directly. Some are looking at new market opportunities. That takes time. And in that process, we've looked at supporting them through, we have a program, a market development that we can allow them to access to look for those new markets and do research on the opportunities that exist in Europe and Asia. We've also looked at several seafood companies and work with them on through our innovation rebate program to look at ways that they can offset what some of those costs may be to them by doing more efficient processes, increasing perhaps robotics or processes that will allow them to increase their volume and reduce their costs.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
Still on the topic of tariffs, Invest Nova Scotia launched the Tariff and Customs Advisory Program in April, I believe, for $99. Registered companies headquartered in Atlantic, Canada, can receive 12 hours of expert consultation on matters related to trade compliance and U.S. tariffs. Can you share how many companies have accessed this support program since its launch in April?
Ms. House?
I don't have the number that have accessed the program so far. The nice thing about that program, and it's a partnership that we've through a partnership that we have with other Atlantic provinces and the federal government. And yes, it does give access to expert advice to help companies navigate the complexities of the tariffs and customs regulations. And I think it's just been open for a couple of, or maybe a month. And so I don't have early numbers, but there's been tremendous interest in the program. And we also see through our export development program, which is a program that companies can access support to travel to new markets or to hire expertise to help them address a specific challenge that they're facing on the export side. And we also see companies accessing that program to try to explore new markets and overcome the tariff hurdles.
MLA Wozni.
Thank you for that. What feedback have you received from Nova Scotian businesses on this particular program as an effective form of support regarding tariffs? And I guess a related question is, in addition to this, what are you hearing from businesses that they're looking for to remain effective and afloat, given the threat of tariffs?
Ms. MacLean. Ms. MacLean?
Go ahead. No, it's hers. There we go.
Yeah.
We're both on. Sorry about that. So with the TCAP program, I will say that our regional business development advisors across the province, so we've got 8 in regions across the province, and they're getting lots of inquiries and interest in the program. Again, we can't speak to the specific numbers, but I think where it's really powerful or helpful is that, some of our larger companies, they have the team in place to be able to do the research and the connections. But for the smaller SMEs, this is a huge support for them for understanding the brokerage side of it and the customs side of it, and how that will impact and on pricing and what they need to do to adjust. So I think that's the niche kind of businesses that we're seeing are some of those smaller ones. The second part of the question is that was around tariff. What was your second piece? Sorry.
MLA Wozni.
Sure. I guess I'm wondering, in addition to access to this expert consultation, what are you hearing from businesses that they might be looking for in addition to this ability to consult?
Ms. MacLean.
So yeah, one of the other things that we're hearing a lot of is the access to supply chain. And so we're working with companies to help identify supply chain alternatives, whether that's working with finding them in other markets, or if it's an opportunity that for them to actually self-create some of that supply chain within the province. And so we're seeing a lot of discussion and potential partnering between businesses that may be able to support one another. But supply chain is definitely one area that has come up more than others.
MLA Wozni.
Appreciate that answer. I'm just wondering, for the benefit of folks who might be watching at home, supply chain is one of those words that we hear all the time, and I'm not sure many people know exactly what that means. For small business people in Nova Scotia wrestling with supply chain, can you give some concrete examples of what supply chain looks like in terms of what they're trying to resolve when issues like this arise for them, just for the benefit of regular Nova Scotians that aren't business people, that aren't trying to source things? I think it helps make it tangible for them when they have concrete ideas of what we're talking about.
Ms. MacLean?
Yeah, so, I mean, what's happening is we see the components of a lot of our advanced manufacturers and processors looking to find those inputs, which may have been sourced primarily from, in this case, US, and they've got to look at opportunities or ways in which they can find those components and either, again, look for internal support within our province of ways that they can do that, or look for inputs through other markets. And so we could look at one thing we've done a lot of recently with our service, trade market intelligence. We provide that service where we have a group of researchers. We'll work with a company or business to help them identify, I guess, ways in which they could overcome the challenge of those inputs and where they could find them and source them.
Ms. House may want to respond as well. MLA Wozni? Ms. House.
Hi. You asked for a concrete example, and I was remembering a lovely chat I had last week with an entrepreneur who is in I believe she makes other products, but her main product is soy-based candles, and she was talking about sourcing her soy from Ohio, I think, and was talking about, I mean, prices like everything were going through the roof before the tariff concerns, but now more than ever. And just, I thought it spoke to the resilience of entrepreneurs, maybe all entrepreneurs, but especially we think Nova Scotia entrepreneurs. She said, oh, maybe, you know, I was thinking maybe I should get out of this business. What have I done? My parents were right. I shouldn't be entrepreneur. And then she started thinking, well, maybe are there sources of soy within Nova Scotia, or maybe she could import the soy, or maybe she could grow it. So she's talked about being a soy hustler, she said. But as a concrete example of inputs where companies are having to think about what their options are, there's an entrepreneur doing that, and actually she plans to use, Wanda mentioned our trade market intelligence program to see what are the opportunities for sourcing that input, those supply chain, or maybe even coming up with her own supply for that and maybe earning revenue on that herself.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
Great, thank you, Chair. Chair, just before I ask my next question, we're not normally alleged the clock up on this screen. That's time remaining.
That is the time remaining, yes.
Great, thank you for clarifying that, Chair. Wrap-up question on tariffs. Even before tariffs loom large here in Nova Scotia, we've seen the number of insolvencies filed by Nova Scotian businesses increasing, and the number of self-employed individuals in this province decreasing. How has Invest Nova Scotia engaged with entrepreneurs to better understand what support is needed so that we see both of these numbers start trending upwards again rather than falling?
Ms. House?
I think in my opening remarks, I talked about our regional business development advisors who are on the ground throughout the province, and every day they're having conversations with small businesses, with entrepreneurs, with startup founders, and the goal of those, the starting point or the goal of those conversations is to understand what their needs are and what they're thinking and how can we help. So I would say it's very, maybe personalized or customized is not the right word, but it is those one-on-one conversations.
MLA Wozni.
Thank you for that. I guess I'm wondering about sort of a broader approach to consulting with the sector, particularly with entrepreneurs that sort of exit the sector. You know, maybe people that find starting a business and sustaining a business insurmountable for some reason, perhaps even despite accessing valuable supports. How is Invest Nova Scotia obtaining, and learning from what some people might look at as failure, but really the attrition of small businesses at a time that we're seeing insolvencies go up and self-employment through entrepreneurship decrease?
Ms. MacLean?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing right now is that, we look at that information and identify with the businesses, or if they've exited, as to why, like what was the reasoning. I think one of the things that our team does, like Dawn had mentioned, is working with the regional business development advisors. They are truly day-to-day boots on the ground, working with our partners in other organizations, identifying trends of what they're seeing in their communities and ways in which, if there's opportunities in those communities for other industry or other businesses, and perhaps taking the strength of maybe some of those exits that unfortunately have happened and turning that into an opportunity for growth in a region.
MLA Wasney.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks to the folks present from Invest Nova Scotia for your time with the questions. If I could, Chair, I'd like to turn to our folks at CEED for a couple minutes. A little bit of conversation about the growing number of insolvencies and the decrease in self-employed individuals. I'm wondering, from the perspective of your organization, what explains those trends? Why are we seeing this kind of depression in sort of self-started small business in Nova Scotia as a source of employment and wealth generation?
Mr. MacMullin, with just over 2 minutes.
So the first point is that the number one reason new businesses fail, and it's important to understand the stage at which the failure occurs, but the number one reason that a new business fails is because they built something that nobody wanted. The challenge, and that's actually proven, CB Insights does this research every year into, and they poll 200 companies and they ask them, you failed, what was the reason? And there was a number of reasons, but fundamentally it's because they built something nobody wanted. So they fell in love with the idea, but they didn't do the primary market research properly and went skating off madly in the wrong direction. And so a lot of the supports that we're trying to bring in is trying to move that forward, move that risk forward, and say, you know what, move the market forward. Before you ever launch, go talk to customers. Don't try and sell them anything. Understand the problem that you're trying to solve and whether your solution is the right one. Now, if a business fails longer term than that, so they get past the initial stage, what it tends to be is, in our experience, and this is anecdotal, it tends to be two things. One of them is the managerial ability of the entrepreneur. So what I mean by that is that there's a difference between entrepreneurship, the starting of a business and finding a sustainable business model and those kinds of things, and then actually bringing that down to a level of managerial discipline. In many cases, there are technicians in their business. They understand the thing that they do, but they might not understand really well how to manage it and how to bring it forward. And then the biggest contributors to that, I guess second, number two or number B in that one, is the financial ability of the entrepreneur, their ability to actually manage their finances.
Order. Well done. You got that question in right at the deadline. That's great. Thank you. We'll now move to our Liberal caucus, and we'll put 10 minutes on the clock and invite MLA Mumbercat to begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My years before politics, I was actually the sandbox coordinator at CBU, so recognize some folks. Good to see you. I'm going to jump right into it with Invest Nova Scotia. We hear from companies and we hear from people trying to start businesses around the province, and we hear things like internet coverage is tough, cell phone coverage is tough. When you get into the bigger companies, we don't have a fully functioning rail line across this province. We need to get product to port. So this has been a big narrative for our caucus. If you want to break down interprovincial trade barriers, you need the infrastructure to do it. So my question to Invest Nova Scotia, through you, Mr. Chair, is, in their opinion, how important is it to have a fully functioning rail line? To have internet service and cell phone service outside of the major urban centers to help grow this province?
See the wheels turning. So we'll go to Ms. MacLean.
Thank you. Absolutely, we understand that transportation infrastructure is both obviously necessary and an important part of opportunity for growth for companies. And, we've participated and with partners at different, events and things to learn more about the importance of the infrastructure. I mean, one of the things that I would say is that, I can't speak to the rail situation, but I do know that it's conversations that are had with businesses across the province, and obviously in particular in Cape Breton, with access to port. I think there's some great, we've got great assets in place for other opportunities for transportation as well. So I can't speak to the rail situation, but I will say that we work with the businesses to look at, again, looking at costs and things like that, and ways to streamline processes, backhauling opportunities between partners and other, other businesses. So that's, I guess that's what I would say on that right now.
Thank you. MLA Mumbercat.
Well, I appreciate it, through you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it, and I appreciate that Invest Nova Scotia sees that a fully functioning rail line across this province will help rural Nova Scotia, will help big chunks of our island, and we got to get product to port. That's really going to be the key for growth for a lot of the communities across, whether it's resource development, whether it's new businesses of various nature that would use that kind of infrastructure to move product. That's one of the biggest gaps that we have, but also one of the biggest opportunities as we look to diversify our trade with our neighbors and overseas. So I appreciate that. So I have a couple of questions around tariffs, and again, this is for the staff from Invest Nova Scotia. How many American companies are being supported with payroll rebates in Nova Scotia?
Ms. House.
With the payroll rebates, about, I think, 77 over the last 4 years. Yeah.
MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that. And I guess just following up on that, is Invest Nova Scotia look like with the environment that is taking place and the conversations that have been difficult south of the borders, Invest Nova Scotia looking at ending any payroll rebates to these American companies?
Ms. House.
Did you say ending the, yes, no? We are continuing to offer the payroll rebates. It's one of the many tools in our toolkit for growing the Nova Scotia economy currently. We're always looking at the tools that we have, but currently that's available to companies looking to grow and expand and move to Nova Scotia.
MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank staff for the answer. And where I'm really going with it is that there's been a lot of conversation from the government about selecting Canadian companies first. If there's a Canadian company available to do the work, that we should be looking at those companies. We're learning in committee now that there's 77 American companies that are being subsidized with Nova Scotia taxpayers' dollars. And I would argue, and I would hope that the department and the government is looking at Canadian options for some of that work. So I guess my questions for you, Mr. Chair, to Invest Nova Scotia is, since the tariff conversation has begun, how has, and the message from the government that we're going to think local, we're going to celebrate and support Canadian companies. What strategy has Invest Nova Scotia pivoted to help look for those Canadian companies that may be able to do that work and not subsidize American companies?
Ms. House.
As I knock over my table here, we agree about celebrating and focusing on Nova Scotia and Canadian companies, and we've always thought at Invest Nova Scotia, and I think throughout the government, when we think about exporting, we think about outside of Nova Scotia, not just outside of Canada, and the same for sourcing those supply chains, the inputs that we talked about earlier today, and services. Yes, the emphasis would be on Canada and Nova Scotia.
MLA Mumbercat.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, staff, for the answer to the question. Although I don't feel like I feel that government could be doing more when it comes to looking for those Canadian companies that may be able to do work that's now being, and we've seen recent tenders go out for companies that weren't Canadian for certain aspects of infrastructure work. So I would hope that the government continues, or at least pivots a bit more when it comes to supporting Canadian companies. My next question is around the $200 million contingency fund, and this was part of the budget. The government indicated that they would set aside $200 million to support businesses that may have been impacted by the tariffs. My question through you, Mr. Chair, to the staff at Invest, how many companies have tapped into the $200 million fund, and can they provide a dollar amount that has been distributed so far?
Ms. House.
I think that's a question for the Department of Finance, not for Invest Nova Scotia. What I can say in terms of what we are doing for companies in the province on the tariff side, what all their export needs. When I look at a program like our export development program, and I mentioned that earlier, that's the one that's focused on helping companies travel to new markets or hire expertise to overcome a specific export challenge in the last, so the program opened again for this fiscal year just a couple of months ago, and we have already committed through that program close to $1 million in projects.
MLA Mumbercat.
So with my last minute and 30 seconds, I'll open it up. Thank you for your answers. I'm going to open this up, and whoever wants to grab it, because I only have 1:30 left, and it goes back to the question that I asked staff. And I'm sure you hear, I'm sure through the guests here too, cell is an issue in rural Nova Scotia. Internet access is an issue in Nova Scotia. Getting to port can be a challenge in parts of Nova Scotia. In your opinion, how important are those infrastructure investments going to be to help grow entrepreneurs and support businesses here in the province? So anyone can take that.
Mr. MacMullin.
Cellular and high-speed internet access, absolutely critical. All of the work that we're doing currently with entrepreneurs, the biggest bottleneck that we're running into in terms of our reach to get to them, to provide them with assistance, plus their ability to reach market, is fundamentally related to high-speed internet cellular service.
MLA Mumbercat, would anyone else on the panel care to take that in the last 30 seconds? Mr. Surrett.
Yeah, I know we've seen a lot of people in our co-working spaces in our rural areas because they do not have that access, at their residence. And if we're going to attract some of these great tech companies to our rural areas, it's incredibly important that, like Craig said, it's critical.
Thank you. MLA Mumbercat.
Just with the last 14 seconds, one question. I appreciate that. Like, this is the biggest conversation we need to have as a province. You need the infrastructure if you're going to grow, and whether that's cellular, phone, road or rail or port. That's how you break down interprovincial trade barriers.
Order. Thank you, MLA Mumbercat. We will now move on to our governing caucus, the PC caucus. We will begin 30 minutes of questioning. We'll go to MLA Sheehy-Richard.
Thank you, Chair. Not to keep Invest on the hot seat, but my questions are kind of around your realm of expertise. But I do want to speak about your regional business development officers a little bit more, because I have had the opportunity to connect with our local rep on a few occasions, and I've found him extremely helpful and educational, not only to me, but so willing to accommodate and meet where he needs to meet. But I guess my question around that is, how many would you say that are in the province, and what type of locations when it comes to being able to service the rural parts of Nova Scotia?
Ms. MacLean?
Sure, thank you. So yeah, I mentioned we have 8 across the province. 2 of those cover HRM East and West, and the remaining ones we have in Yarmouth and Digby area, Dan Surrett. We have Ashley Cullicutt covering the South Shore, so Bridgewater, Shelburne, Lunenburg counties, and Matthew Berrigan for Colchester, Cumberland, Dave Hache for Pictou, Antigonish, and Guysborough as another region for the northern region. And then we have our Cape Breton Island region that covers the entire island.
Okay.
MLA Sheehy Richard.
For that. And then I guess I was curious, just typically, especially with the change in all the circumstances around, is there a trend of people who typically reach out that you're seeing, who would reach out to your team first, and how would you determine what support they would need?
Ms. MacLean.
Thank you. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention my colleague Sean Cochran in Annapolis Valley. My apologies. I should have started, gone through the geography better, but so yeah, absolutely. You know, the regional business development advisors are really well connected to their communities. They're part of those communities, so they're rooted there, and they become part of the fabric and working with our partner organizations as well. And I think that's key, is that communication is there, and we're all working towards, you know, supporting them. What we're hearing, you know, obviously recently, with some of the more uncertain times, you know, businesses are rethinking product development and markets and strategies and what they're going, how, you know, are they going to make those investments, or are they going to change those capital investments? But honestly, it's the day-to-day for our team, and it can be everything from advice on markets to, you know, we're well connected in those communities, and so well connected to other partners, like I mentioned, and getting those folks engaged with the companies as well.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy Richard.
And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't do a little prelude into my next line. A couple questions are, you know, being the only female MLA sitting here in the chamber today, and you being the only two female witnesses, I just was pleased to read in your mandate that you're committed to assisting and growing diverse businesses. And as I said, as a woman, I am interested to understand how Invest Nova Scotia works to support specific needs of underrepresented individuals and equity-deserving business persons, such as the women entrepreneurs or women that are looking to more specifically grow their business.
Ms. House.
Thank you for that question. I like to talk about this myself. We have a full-time export development executive role who is focused on diverse-owned businesses, including ones run by women. And so just a few responsibilities. So that person would work one-on-one with those diverse-owned businesses to develop and pursue new market opportunities, and they also, that role would work building strong relationships with other organizations that support those businesses, like Futurpreneur. And we also have a supplier diversity certification program, and that offers companies financial support to obtain supplier diversity certification through one of 5 certifying bodies in Canada. And with that certification, businesses gain access to special supplier diversity procurement opportunities and special training and events and webinars. So yeah, we have someone focused on that. Yeah, work to be done, to be sure.
I believe representatives from Futurpreneur would like to maybe comment as well. So who would be, that would be Mr. Eisnor or Mr. Anshan? Mr. Anshan.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And as you heard in our opening remarks, we're very much committed to supporting equity-deserving entrepreneurs. So we do have a Black entrepreneur startup program. We have an Indigenous entrepreneur startup program. And those are both run by teams with lived experience. So not folks that look like myself or David, but individuals from those communities across the country. And they're able to provide those tailored supports. Happy to discuss further what that looks like in detail. We're also very proud nationally, approximately 40 to 42% of our lending every year is to women-led businesses. In Nova Scotia, over the last 5 years, it's actually been closer to 50%, about 49%. And we do find that that is because of the approach that we take with our dedicated mentorship program as well. We match on a skill basis, so it is something that the entrepreneurs help us understand what types of skills that they don't feel that they have, that they need to learn, and we're able to match mentors based on that, but we're also able to do that demographically.
Okay, thank you. Now, MLA Sheehy Richard, I believe Mr. MacMullin would like to comment as well. Mr. MacMullin.
Very quickly. Just from supporting a female entrepreneur, the majority of the entrepreneurs that CEED supports are female, the vast majority. Over the course of the last 2 years and extending into this year, has been running an exclusive women's entrepreneurship program that has worked with over 600 female entrepreneurs across Canada. The majority of facilitators in that program, all but one of 23 partners, are female. Majority of them are CEED alumni. And although I am representing CEED today, 75% of my staff are female.
Thank you for those responses. MLA Sheehy Richard.
No, it's really good to hear because when I just take a little stroll down my particular street, and since, during COVID, it was crazy really how many people sort of did try to reposition and rethink of what they were doing for their professionalism. And, we do have a vast majority of female entrepreneurs on my street where my office is. So your efforts together must be working, which is nice to see, I will say. So I guess just as a follow-up to any of you, it's open to, what are some of the specific challenges and needs of being a diverse owner that might jump to mind at first thought?
So, okay, we'll go to Mr. MacMullin. He's ready there.
Speaking to the female entrepreneurs, and in this case, our program actually requires them to have an intersectional need. So as one of my staff says, as if being a woman entrepreneur is not a burden enough, they have to have some other burden. The challenge is that people judge by appearances and people judge by biases. And we would love to be in the situation where that was not the case. But because that is the case, then the challenge for us in many situations when we're working with an entrepreneur is that we recognize that bias immediately and start to develop skills with them to overcome that. So, I do a lot of work with Ellen Farrell at St. Mary's, for instance. And Ellen has developed a fantastic program to help female tech founders pitch successfully for money, an area where they are grossly discriminated against. In order for her to develop that fantastic program, she has developed a program that is just unbelievably awesome. And when I've sat down and said to her, I said, you realize that you've built a Cadillac here that you could extend across to almost everybody. And her answer is, when we fix the problem that we have with female entrepreneurship and the discrimination against them, maybe I'll think about letting the white guys in. But, that's it. The challenge for diverse entrepreneurs, I would love to say that the world has changed. The world has not changed. And they start with one foot in the bucket and the other one on a banana peel. And it is very difficult in some cases to get into some rooms and be taken on the basis of your argument and on the basis of the merit of the business case. And so to work with a diverse entrepreneurship group means, one, recognizing the fact that we're going to have to work quite hard, but that they're going to be better for the process at the end, because they're going to be, more bulletproof than most by the time they get through, by the time they're ready for it. The other piece is recognizing that equity is not about, and a lot of talk today about our friends in the U.S., but equity is not a negative thing. It is the ultimate meritocracy. And so we need to start recognizing that. And in our case, in all of our programming, that's been first and foremost.
Emily Sheehy-Richard, you've hit on a very passionate topic here for our guests. So I think we'll go to a Futurpreneur next, and that would be Mr. Anshan, and then we'll come back to the Invest. Mr. Anshan. Yeah.
No, thank you so much for that question. I'd like to echo a lot of what Mr. MacMullin was saying. I fully agree with so many of the points that you made. I think particularly what was resonated is what you were talking about in terms of the starting point. I think we when we're talking internally, we discuss, around entrepreneurs that are maybe starting at the start line and others who aren't, even quite at the start line yet, and what kind of supports do they need. So a lot of what we hear from the community is often that access to networks, that access to role models who have actually gone through the program before. That's why part of why we have that mentorship program, is to really pair our entrepreneurs with an experienced entrepreneur that has either the same lived experience or some of that necessary skill development that can help them really thrive and succeed. Following that, it really, so much of what is difficult about starting a business is that access to financing. So entrepreneurs who don't have that friends and family around, that's why our lending is collateral free. And similar, with CEED, when many of our partners are here around the table, this is a community approach that I feel that we take to it here in the province, and that's why it is so powerful. I am proud to also share that we have announced just in March, we will be starting a women's entrepreneur initiative across the country that will also be active here in Nova Scotia. That's sponsored by TD, and that'll involve peer-to-peer networking opportunities and cohorts with women entrepreneurs across the country. And that's very much what we've heard directly from the community, that they're looking for that cohort-based model. For the Indigenous Entrepreneur Startup Program, we've also developed a new pilot program called the Opikiwin workshop, which is Cree for empowerment. So it's a journey to financial empowerment program for Indigenous entrepreneurs to really help them understand that relationship to money and lending, and set them up for success so that they're ready to start a business and take a loan. And for us, really, it's about tailoring these resources by listening to the entrepreneurs directly and then adapting our programs to meet those needs.
And I believe Invest would like to answer the question. Emily Sheehy-Richard, is that? Yep. Okay. Ms. House.
I think I just wanted to share a bit of an experience that we have had at Invest Nova Scotia. We have a 5-month program to help startups reach technical and business milestones needed to get investment ready. It's called Accelerate. And just so think about the companies that would access that program would be ones typically, intellectual property rich, so scientific discovery or engineering innovation. And in my time watching that program, I guess, more work to be done and lots of partner organizations doing it with us. But I just see the face of that program with the participating entrepreneurs has changed a lot. We're seeing more and more women. One highlight is a company called Aruna, and several of you the partners would have worked with Aruna too. They've developed a compostable menstrual pad, made from fibers from from food and crop waste. And that company went through our program and credits it with helping them with their extraction process as well as improving their business model. But my point is that over the years, seeing the increase of women in that particular program, in a science techie one, good for that, yeah.
Thank you. MLA Sheehy Richard.
I'm familiar with that quite well, and actually we have the product here in the legislature, and am touring the facility at the end of the month, so it's nice that you use that as an example. I'm occupying a lot of my colleagues' time, but if they'll enlighten me, I just had one little question that popped into my head, which is a different kind of space. But I was just curious, like especially in the Annapolis Valley, where myself and the chair represent, we do hear a lot of struggles, and not just in agriculture, but in other industry, about succession planning. And I'm just wondering if Invest has any role in that space, or if you might supply any, or if any of you actually have roles in that space. If you're supplying some resources just to see, as we try to, become more self-reliant and grow our economy, a lot of these, even in the trades, we're seeing that succession planning in business is something that isn't necessarily happening. So just so I don't occupy too much time, just something curious if that's been discussed.
Ms. MacLean? Okay.
Yeah, so definitely it's a conversation being had by many, in particular in the agriculture, and you see those family farms, and it's not as it's not happening as often where it's passed down from generation to generation, and looking at those opportunities. But we have had discussions with not only clients, but with labor skills and immigration, and with immigration themselves, around opportunities for new business succession and purchasing of existing businesses. There hasn't been anything specific by way of programming, but certainly we've worked with our partners at BDC around valuation of businesses, and connected our clients with them to look at those opportunities to support them in getting the guidance that they need to make the right decisions as to a path forward.
Mr. Anshan, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, and I'll just speak very briefly, because I know that CEED also is doing some work on this, as you noted in your opening remarks. Futurpreneur has always been able to support business succession through our loan with mentorship programs. I don't feel that that's always been super well known, so we have been on a bit of a mission over the last couple of years. We've been piloting a new workshop called Owners Wanted, and this is specifically for young aspiring business owners that are looking to purchase an existing business, and helping them understand the process along the way to do that, and what they would need to effectively take over an existing business. And if they're ready for it, to come to Futurpreneur for that loan with mentorship. So, if there are those folks in your communities, we're very looking forward to supporting them. Right now, those workshops have been primarily online for Nova Scotian entrepreneurs, but we do want to explore bringing that to the province in person as well.
Mr. MacMullin.
The sad comment is 80% of businesses that go up for sale never sell. And of those that do sell, they sell for net asset value, meaning we subtract the liabilities from the assets, and that's the sale price. The challenge is that in many cases, succession, I bristle at the characterization of succession, because it's one potential way to exit a business. But the challenge is that for too many entrepreneurs, it's an event that causes them to start thinking about the exit. There's death, divorce, sickness, illness, disagreement with partner, so on. And the reality is that what ends up happening, and the reason you get into the situation of reduced valuations, is fundamentally comes down to three things. It comes down to, is the business transferable? Because in many cases, the value gets locked up. Where's the value? Who owns the relationship? Who knows the secret sauce? It's the entrepreneur. Well, they'd like to leave, so all the value is going out the door. So that has to be actually transferred and built into the business. So is the business ready, and is the business attractive, is the first thing. The second thing is the owner ready to transition? A lot of businesses end up, they start to go down the path, they get all the way to the altar, and the ones that don't get consummated, it's because the entrepreneur blew up the deal at the last minute. Why? Because they weren't ready. And so the challenge for a lot of businesses, and what we commonly tell people, is when's the best time to start planning your exit from the business? And right after you start it. Because what you have to do is you have to build a transferable financial asset. Did you build a job, or did you build a transferable financial asset? In the most transferable businesses, they're almost franchise-like. You can see the opportunity and you can put a price tag on it, and there you go. Here's the operating manual, go operate it or improve upon it. But in many cases, the I is to exit, and it's exit with a reason to exit, and it has nothing to do with the valuation. So it's a process, and if you start thinking about it today, it's probably a 5-year process.
Thank you. We'll now move over to MLA Burns.
Thank you all for coming here today. I think some of my questions have been answered in different scopes through Melissa's fantastic questions. So I'm thinking about the starting point of startup space. I see a panel of experts in the entrepreneurial space, and I'm sort of wondering, from the starting perspective, do folks across your organizations offer navigation or coordination amongst you? If somebody raises their hand and says, I'm interested in the entrepreneurial space, whether that's identifying market research or purchasing a company, can you kind of explain the starting point to me for folks in my area?
So, Mr. Surrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Surrett. There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for the question. I mean, a lot of the time what we deal with on a day-to-day basis is people walking in off the street, pitching their business idea, and a lot are at that early ideation stage. We do our best at Ignite not to replicate other great programs that are out there, and we're lucky in our spaces, too, to have partners like the regional rep from Invest, like the Chambers of Commerce, like the local tourism organizations, like CEED that does office hours in our spaces, like Futurpreneur. So we've developed a nice process to have that beginning conversation. And I come from a hospitality background. I often say it's like the front desk. And we've worked out a nice process with some great metrics with our partners at Volta to record these conversations and really pull the data from those conversations, and of course leverage AI to find out where the best resources are for that individual startup. Some of them are at the ideation stage. We speak to a lot of folks that are coming in with multi-million-dollar revenues coming in, and they just want to try this new innovative piece to their business as well. So we've developed a process over time to how to have those initial conversations, identify where the proper resources are. It's too much for one person to hold in their head, well, unless they're a lot smarter than I am, because there's so many different resources available, and all the time they're changing. So we've got a big effort to power this AI tool that we've developed to keep all the programs in there, and then once we have that initial conversation, hopefully we plug them in and help them navigate that. And a lot of the time they'll go to somebody like CEED, go through a cohort, and come back to us and said, that was very helpful. They've started my process here. Now I'm here. Where do I go from here, kind of thing. So I think that navigation process is incredibly important, and it's a great service, I think, that we're able to provide in those locations.
Thank you. MLA Burns.
Yeah, no, thank you. And if we had all day, I would ask you about every step along that path. But maybe I'll jump further down that road, and we'll get to maybe the funding question. So somebody has walked in, you've helped them navigate and figure out a direction that they want to go. Of course, funds are always a concern. Can you explain to me how that next step takes place, how the relationships and what connections and directions you can point folks to move their business or to get it off the ground?
Mr. Surrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. Yeah, it really, I think it's really dependent on the entrepreneur themselves and who they are, as we talked about before. If it is a diverse entrepreneur, there's different paths and programs available. A lot of the time, quite honestly, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that come in looking for a free grant, money that's not having to be paid back, right? And that just that rarely exists. I mean, there is a bit of it, but not too much, right? But So there's a lot of the time the connections with the local CBDCs, with the CEEDs, with the Futurpreneurs, depending on that makeup, that can provide some of that seed money to start. Another great initiative that Invest Nova Scotia, and in particular Bob Pelly's been taking a successful model that's been in Cape Breton and taking that and trying to duplicate that around the province and sourcing local VC money throughout these different rural pockets. A lot of the time in rural pockets, there's lots of money, but that's not invested in their own communities. It's a matter of training the investor how to invest locally, and in training the local startups how to access that VC money locally. So I think that there's a successful model in Cape Breton that can be duplicated around this province, which would help, because access to capital is the biggest challenge, the biggest challenge. And to build on Craig's point earlier, why do so many self-employed folks, not succeed? Well, one thing that we deal with a lot in a lot of our communities, and I'll say it, maybe I shouldn't, but there is an aversion to risk, a lot of the time, and we're constantly trying to support entrepreneurs to lessen the risk. Now, we don't do the work for them, and we can't eliminate the risk, because if that's the case, the entrepreneur is probably not on a path to success. They need to do the work. They need to encounter that risk. But yeah, I think access to capital is a big concern. But there's lots of good work going on, I think, to help that.
Thank you. Ms. MacLean.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo a couple of things just on that life cycle piece. And we often will look at that as new companies and startups come in through the doors, and our regional business development team will start to guide them on that path, whether it's connecting with partners or our own programming internally. And so I look at our cycle as they may go through our launch export, where they get that virtual kind of capacity building and knowledge exchange of what it takes for that business to start looking forward on a path to export. And again, that's just outside of Nova Scotia. So selling within the province and then moving beyond those borders. The next step would be like that trade market and intelligence, and help with the research around what they will require to validate their decision on their next steps and what markets they should be looking at. The next step is our export development growth program. Our export program allows them to explore those markets through trade missions, conferences, and that type of thing, and we support them financially through that. And finally, if they're looking at the next stage of expansion, we talk about capital and access. The Innovation Rebate Program, as some of you may be aware, is a 25% capital rebate incentive on $350,000 or more for acquisition to improve capacity, volume, processing, elimination of waste or reducing waste, all of those things. So that's kind of that trajectory that we take our clients through and hopefully support them on that journey.
MLA Burns.
That sounds fantastic. It sounds like there's a lot of support along the way there at every stage of the process. Not having enough time to dive into each of those, I guess I'll try and bridge the last couple of questions together and ask. So we've had somebody come in, they've identified their path, and they've worked on funding. Do you provide support kind of at that post-funding stage to make sure, to help point them in the direction of not ending up in the direction of untested markets or failure? Like, is there some business navigation there to keep them afloat and point in the right direction?
We have a hard stop in 15 seconds. Mr. MacMullin.
At least in our shop, we spend an awful lot of time navigating. We've also purposely built a team that will sit with those companies past their initial launch.
Thank you. Order. And we will now move on to our second round of questioning. And the clerk and I have calculated our time remaining. We're splitting it up with 25 minutes. And we will, we will give the NDP Caucus the next round of questioning, and that will be 8 minutes and 15 seconds. So we will now go to the NDP Caucus. Who will I will be recognizing? MLA Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. The NDP has called for more support for small local businesses, such as broadening a payroll rebate program to help with employment growth and a wage subsidy program to help businesses move towards paying employees living wages. We're wondering about what your perspective is on whether supports like this could have helped more businesses stay afloat last year.
Mr. MacMullin.
Certainly a wage rebate. One of the major problems for a lot of small businesses once they start to look at some level of scale past that solo entrepreneurship stage, they've got some traction. The biggest challenge that they have is attraction of talent. I mentioned earlier that one of the problems that they run into is this issue of going from the managerial, going from the entrepreneurship, this fuzzy front end kind of existence, to now I have to lock things down and I have to actually make my business operate. In many cases, it's much easier for them to go out and hire trained managers. Managers and entrepreneurs, they tend not to be embodied in the same person a lot. And so the challenge, if there was some level of assistance for a lot of these businesses, that may actually help them get over that bridge that says I'm going from something that has a little bit of traction to now something that I can actually scale and move up. It would allow them to bring in the talent.
MLA Wozni.
Thank you. This question is for folks at Invest Nova Scotia, really thinking about incentives for growth. Invest Nova Scotia offers a payroll rebate program to eligible businesses, and we understand that applications must be project-based and come with a job creation element. I'm wondering if, thinking about some numbers related to this program, how many businesses received the payroll rebate in the last fiscal year?
Ms. House.
I'll take the question. I don't have the answer. What I can do is speak to the number of FTEs supported over the last 5 years was 15,822. But no, I don't have the figure for the last fiscal year for payroll rebates.
MLA Wozni.
I guess we may run into a snafu here. I'm really looking at sort of the snapshot of the last fiscal. Wondering how much was spent on this payroll rebate program in the last fiscal year.
Ms. House.
What I can say is that we generally have a budget of 17 million allocated for that program, but I can't speak to last fiscal's year number, although it may be in my binder. Maybe I can follow up with information about that after.
I was just going to suggest, MLA Wozni, if it's okay with you, that we could ask the guests to, through the clerk, provide that information for our committee. Thank you. MLA Wozni.
In this vein of questioning, wondering what the average amount that businesses receive through the payroll rebate program. Again, that might be a get back to us question, but just want to put that.
That will be in your package when I get back to you with these details.
MLA Wozni.
I know you've given us the number of just under 16,000 FTEs over the last 5 years, but my question is, since this program was first established, how many new jobs have been supported through the payroll rebate program? I think that might be a lengthier period of time than 5 years, though.
Ms. House?
Again, I'll more details I'll have to provide you afterwards.
MLA Wozni.
Earlier, we asked a couple questions about high growth areas that Invest Nova Scotia identifies. In connection to this rebate, we're wondering about the distribution of the payroll rebate across these 12 high growth areas. Wondering if there are some sectors that access the payroll rebate more frequently than others.
Ms. House?
Yes, what we found is that the payroll rebate is most effective for labor-intensive industry, if that's the right word. So particularly good at for professional services firms. So think data solutions and IT.
MLA Wozni?
Wondering how many rebates have gone to businesses in the agri-food and beverage sector compared to sectors like critical minerals and mining.
Ms. House?
Again, I'll have to get back to you with those details.
And just so we know, the clerk, I think, is making notes of all this, and we have Hansard to come back with you as well. MLA Wozni?
Chair. With the payroll rebate program, do you track how many jobs remain in place once the payroll rebate expires? And what is the attrition rate of jobs after businesses stop receiving the rebate?
Ms. House?
More details I'll provide later.
If you plead the fifth next, we're MLA Wozni.
Get legal advice from the chair. We don't have that in Nova Scotia. For the folks at CEED, we know the face of entrepreneurship is shifting, and we're seeing more women and newcomers to Canada creating businesses. From your experience of working with diverse young entrepreneurs, where might the gaps exist in government supports? We're wondering whether entrepreneurs from certain backgrounds are struggling more than others to establish and support their businesses.
Mr. MacMullin, with a minute to go.
I would say the struggle for many of them, there's adequate support, I think, for the majority of diverse entrepreneurs that are starting in what are traditional Main Street sectors. There's support from us, there's support from ISNs, there's support from a number of organizations. I think the area where we're missing the boat is the international student population. Universities have, recruited from cultures where entrepreneurship is part of the culture. And yet we don't have a really good way of capturing that untapped potential. And because they need PR to borrow money, and there's a year of break, that's where we run into a gap.
Order. Thank you. We'll move on to the Liberal Caucus with 4 minutes and 15 seconds. MLA Mumbercat.
Okay, my question just, excuse me, through you, Mr. Chair, just based on that conversation around international students and newcomers that are coming, that are working in various small businesses across the province. So this would be a question for Invest. We know that those numbers are going to change. The number of folks that will be in communities across the province that will, just based on decisions that have been made at the federal government level, are you monitoring that, and what are you hearing from businesses around the impact of that? And that could be for Invest Nova Scotia, and if somebody wants to jump in as well, absolutely.
Mr. MacMullin, you're the MVP here today.
I guess, yeah. With the international student population, there's really great supports for on-campus support. And what I mean by that is the work that Dal Innovates does with Lab to Market and so on. And we've assisted them in bringing that to various areas of the province. And every time we go into a room for their Collide program, there's not a domestic student in there. So you've got a group of individuals. The last time we did it in Cape Breton, there were 45 students in the room, and every one of them was an international student. The challenge is that that transition off of campus into the workforce, there's this 1-year gap before they get PR to borrow money and so on. And so, you know, we've been in the situation where we've asked the question, you have this group of individuals who represent an economic resource, but there's a gap where they have to go out and get this work experience. And sometimes that work experience, they'll take anything just to say they have the work experience. And we've often said, well, if that is some kind of, you know, apprenticeship, supervised Canadian apprenticeship thing that we're doing, why can we not put them in an incubator? Why can we not put them towards getting a business plan and getting a business really up and going? Working within the incubator could count towards their PR. And then by the time they have their PR, they're ready to go. The challenge for, they also fulfill a role for a lot of startups, that ability for them to find the talent that they need. Because many of the international students, there's nothing more entrepreneurial than picking up and leaving your home country to go somewhere else. It's a fine entrepreneurial trait. And so that ability to leverage that opportunity, leverage that talent to drive a startup forward is completely there. But I think we missed the boat on it.
Emily Mumbercat.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
Any response from investor on that?
Ms. House?
Just to say that I think that was well articulated for sure, and I echo the comment about the startups and the talent that they need, but are continue to find generally still for those early stage technology companies.
Emily Mumbercat.
Thank you, and I know 48 seconds. I'll just say this. When we were running the competitions at the universities, it was actually the non-business students that were winning the competitions. It was the carpenters, and it was the art students who were the great writers, and it was, so I guess it's more of a point, and maybe a question too, through you, Mr. Chair, to the representatives here. You know, traditionally, people think entrepreneurship is about having a business degree and taking a business program, you know, that was the way it was in the past. As we all know, it's very different, and there's lots of entrepreneurship's also about solving social problems too as well, and there's some great leaders in that as well. So, are you seeing a mix from different degrees that are pursuing your programs? 5 seconds.
Mr. Eisnor, and I'm afraid there is no time to answer the question. I have to call order. I apologize. We'll now move on to the PC Caucus, 12 minutes and 30 seconds. And we'll wait for the clerk to set this. And, sorry. Begin, MLA McGillivray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'd like to thank all the guests for being here today and providing so much excellent information. You all deal with economic development. That's more important now than ever here in our province of Nova Scotia, so thank you for your work. I've had the opportunity over the last number of years to visit Ignite Atlantic on a few occasions. It's a community and economic hub, as described by Mr. Surrett. There's several organizations there that work in that same space. It's a very important part of Pictou County's economic landscape. I'm just wondering, I know Mr. Surrett said there's sites now in Pictou County, Yarmouth, and maybe soon in Cape Breton. Is there plans for further sites? And also, as a secondary question, are there sites across Atlantic Canada as well?
Mr. Surrett.
Thank you,
Mr. Surrett, there we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, currently the 2 locations and acquiring space now in Sydney. Yeah, we're starting to evolve a model that can be applied to different communities. You know, it's you know, we want to make sure that we have our processes and things in place and have good process in place before we madly go off in a million different directions. We want to be effective in what we do, and again, we spend a lot of time making sure we're not duplicating any other services, but as you've witnessed, to have a space and to have like-minded souls working together in a space with organizations that have, good supports, there's value to that in these communities, and the community has really embraced these spaces and programs in our communities. And further to my the point earlier about the risk aversion in some of the communities, I think that's where a lot of the youth programs can be so important, and instilling that sense of innovation and entrepreneurship. A lot of the time we don't do a great job instilling in our youth that everybody's looking for a comfortable Monday to Friday gig with a good retirement plan and good dental benefits, and we're preached that from day one. So sometimes it's we need some voices out there encouraging folks to take risk and to do that. And with the Y settlement services in our building as well, we do see a large number of newcomers and their tolerance to risk, like we don't know risk, like their tolerance to risk is much greater. And so to have the newcomers in a space that's connecting with experienced entrepreneurs and others, I think it's incredibly important. So yes, we do, we would have plans to expand in other communities. I think there's services we can offer, but it's important into a lot of these rural communities, and each community we operate in is very distinct, and the entrepreneurs we talk to in those communities are very different, and we're just learning in Cape Breton right now. We don't pretend to go into a community and say this is the way it's done. In Cape Breton, we are in a situation now where we're dealing with international students a lot of the time, which we didn't have that experience in Yarmouth and Pictou County necessarily. So every community is unique, and we listen to the community. If there's a desire for a community for us to come in and set up shop, we'll chat with those individuals and see exactly what the needs are for that community, and see if we can help, or if there's other great organizations that fill that void better.
Thank you. Emily McGilvery.
Thank you for that. So we're a government that's very proud to be working with services like Ignite Atlantic and Futurpreneur. Could you both speak to how funding models such as the agreements with your organizations have helped benefit entrepreneurs in Nova Scotia of all ages and backgrounds?
Mr. Anshan?
Yes, just to confirm, you were asking sort of how the relationship with the government of Nova Scotia has helped us to support entrepreneurs of all ages and backgrounds? Absolutely. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, we're very proud to be able to provide a very strong return on investment for the government of Nova Scotia's funding, both on the loan capital that we're able to provide, but also crucially on the additional operating funding that we're able to leverage into the province from other sources. And that is how our model has traditionally worked, both here and in other provinces. So through our ongoing relationship with the government of Nova Scotia, that enables us to bring in more of that federal funding, bring in more of that corporate funding here to achieve and exceed those targets. Currently, over the last 5 years, it's been more than a 6.4 to 1 return on investment for the government of Nova Scotia's funding. And again, that's led over those last 5 years to over 125 new business launches. Our programs are the workshops that we provide are available to all entrepreneurs across the province and across the country. Our Loan with Mentorship model is for young entrepreneurs specifically, so age 18 to 39, because we do find that they have specific needs that we've, and many of our colleagues here have spoken to today in terms of those access to networks, but crucially that access to financing. So that's why our loan model is collateral free, because young people do typically not have access to that collateral. Our loans are also interest only in the first year because they are startup loans. So they're for businesses that have either launched in the last 2 years or plan to launch in the next year. And for those folks, having their monthly costs a little bit lower because it's interest only in that first year, that really helps them get established while they're working with their mentor, and then the principal kicks in year 2 to 5.
Emily McGilvery.
Would Mr. Surrett like to speak to that question as well about the funding models, how that helps your organization?
Yes, Mr. Surrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I think the other organizations spoke to the many, and we spoke earlier to the many supports that are available out there, but in particular with us, the funding has allowed us to do a lot of great youth programs, into that high school level and middle school level, working with organizations like the Black Business Initiative and Businesses Jamming and providing our youth, our Up and Atom youth camps, the STEM and science camps that we do too, and working with a lot of the funding's allowed us to partner with the female and STEM programs as well. So to start to instill some of those things in our youth, the high school youth and even younger, and to get those those spirits and that risk tolerance going at those young age. I mean, I think that's been critical, and it's been great, and it's been very rewarding now that Ignite's been around for 6 years. We're starting to see work done at those early ages now develop into these startups that are coming out, and lawn mowing businesses that are starting up, and other things that are starting up in the area, to see that that full circle start to happen, and which wouldn't happen obviously without the great supports that we have. So,
Emily McGilvery.
Okay, thank you for that. This is for Invest Nova Scotia. How does Invest Nova Scotia continue to support environmentally conscious entrepreneurial enterprise in Nova Scotia? And kind of a second part of that is with more and more businesses looking towards environmental sustainability, are there any specific programs I can point my constituents towards?
Just looking for direction. Okay, Ms. House.
Yes, hi. I think the program that jumps immediately to mind, although it would be for maybe a more established business, is our innovation rebate program that helps companies with capital investments to increase innovation, productivity, and production capacity, yes. But also a big emphasis of that program is on helping these companies adopt cleaner, more sustainable approaches to their growth.
Emily McGilvery.
Okay, thank you. With it's under 4 minutes, I think I'll pass it on to my colleague.
Emily Federi.
Thank you very much. Very limited time left. Just want to quickly ask our Futurpreneur a quick question regarding what kind of support does Futurpreneur offer businesses beyond the initial 2-year mentorship period to help them navigate scaling and sustainability challenges?
Mr. Eisnor?
I am a bit hard of hearing. Could ask to please repeat the question.
Okay. So I'm asking, what kind of support does Futurpreneur offer businesses beyond the initial 2 years mentorship period to help navigate scaling and sustainability?
Mr. Eisnor.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the question. So we have a number of programs that help support entrepreneurs beyond the 2 years. One of them would be our Growth Accelerator that we run on a yearly basis, and we bring upwards of 10 to 20 entrepreneurs to Toronto for workshops and opportunities to learn about scaling and growth. And then we also are part of the Youth Entrepreneurship Alliance, where we have the opportunity to send entrepreneurs every year to whichever country the G20 is happening in, usually in advance of that event. And this past year, I believe we sent 2 entrepreneurs from Nova Scotia to Brazil with that. So those are some, just a couple examples, and I'd be happy to share others in a more private setting where we could expand on that. Thanks very much.
MLA Federi.
Sorry, Chair. Thank you very much for that. Last question, my last question to CEED is, how do you evaluate long-term success for businesses you support? Are there mechanisms to track the growth and job creation after graduation from your program?
Mr. MacMullin.
Let's think of Barrington Street for just a second. Freak Lunchbox, Old Bloody Wine Bar, Chabatai, Weird Harbor, they're all CEED businesses. So and that's just one example. On the tech side, there's a number of businesses that have come through us and through our partnerships, and the one that jumps out to me, we're a big believer as are many of our partners, about the cliche of eat your own dog food. And so one of the things that we've done years ago, we had a cooperative program with Ignite called Amplify. One of the first companies that went through that was a company called Zebra out of Amherst, and they build enterprise resource management software at a more attractive price point for smaller businesses. And Zebra is the engine that CEED runs all of its programming through at this point in time. And they've expanded to several of the environmental consultants in town, Mersey Seafood, and so on. So the proof is in the pudding with a lot of these businesses. I'm also proud to say there's some that have failed, where the entrepreneur then dusted themselves off and tried again. And that's the big compliment, is the first time it doesn't always work. But in many cases, it does.
MLA Fedare with 20 seconds. Last word to you.
Well, I would say that thank you for coming. I think what we're doing here is incredible. It's important for us to support businesses. I'm glad to hear about the success rate, 6.4 to 1. That's very impressive. I would have loved to have known what kind of businesses contributed to that return, but it's hard to get that. But thank you anyway.
So thank you to all of our committee members. Wonderful conversation today. You've given us all as MLAs great resources. I think we'll be using your resources in the future for sure. We're up against the clock. We're behind schedule. I would like to give you all just a brief chance to say a closing comment, or if you'd like. Who would like to, anybody like to? Ms. House?
I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be part of the conversation today. I think, I won't speak for the other partners, very proud of the work that we do, and then reflecting over the last number of years how much better I think the partners have gotten at collaborating and making sure we don't duplicate, and using the limited resources well, and just having a really robust referral system between us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Surrett.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for the opportunity today. One thing I didn't get to mention earlier in our discussions is the game changer that AI really is for a lot of our entrepreneurs. And we've got a series of AI workshops for small and medium-sized businesses going across this province right now. It really does take the leverage off of having a huge IT team, and there's some great tools, and it really will be a game changer. It's changing from entrepreneurs and startups who have a great amount of experience in the IT world to having a great idea and leveraging these tools to make those ideas come to life. So I just wanted to make sure that was mentioned today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. MacMullin?
I would like to thank everybody for their time today. To really appreciate the questions and the exchange. I would like to issue a challenge. And the challenge is we live in challenging times right at the moment, as MLA Wozni has rightly pointed out the impact of tariffs. However, Nova Scotia has always had a robust number of entrepreneurs, and some of them are quite famous. And yes, we live in challenging times, but the reality is that nothing is a greater source of innovation and entrepreneurship than constraint. And so the constraints that we currently live in, it's easy for us to get a little bit fearful, I suppose. But the other side of it is that the entrepreneurs are their problem solvers, and they will figure it out. But I would challenge the government and the three parties involved to not only lean upon part of the organizations that sit here to help wade through that problem, but also to hold us accountable for it. We are taxpayer-funded organizations, and we need to be held to that account.
Thank you. And one of our representatives, Mr. Eisnor.
Again, thanks very much for the opportunity to be here today, and I want to especially recognize and thank our ecosystem partners, because I think together we work really well to support the next generation of entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our time with you today. We'll take a brief minute and a half recess to allow our guests to leave, and then we'll have a presentation from our legislative librarian coming in. So if I could ask all members to maybe stay in the chamber while our guests leave, that'd be great. Thank you. We're standing in recess. Order. If I could ask our committee members to come back to our seats, we will begin our committee business. I miscalculated our time, so we're a little bit behind, but we'll allow our legislative librarians to give a brief presentation to our committee. And we may put off just the little bit of correspondence from our on our agenda from today. We may put that off till our next meeting, but we'll allow the librarians to begin the presentation. So we'll begin with David.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for agreeing to hear us speak about what the library does to support committees. I think we've talked to a few of you already, but we're trying to talk to all the committees to get a sense of how you feel that we're doing and how if we could do things better. Heather Ludlow is sitting next to me here, and she's the one who prepares the committee briefings that you receive. I don't have a lot of time, do I? So, okay, so I'm not going to get into the history or anything. I'll just ask briefly if committee members find the reports that we create, or do they find them useful? And if so, what do they find useful about the reports? What do they find least useful? Is there any additional information we can provide that will help you in your committee business? We're looking for basically honest feedback, and we want to help us evaluate how we provide services for you. And basically, we're here. We want to make it known that we're here to help you in your work. So anything that you can provide us for feedback, we would very much welcome. So,
Heather, would you like to any comments briefly, or just?
I think David has got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, any of our committee members like to provide any feedback to our librarians who've come in this afternoon? I think MLA Richard.
Well, I just checked with our researcher in the back to ask how he felt, and he's pleased and has thank you for your work. So we appreciate that. They comb through it a little bit more than we as members do, but we do appreciate the work that you do.
And on behalf of our committee, I do want to thank you for coming in today and giving a snapshot and just making us more aware of what the work you do. So with that, MLA Federi.
Sorry, it's great putting face to the name, and thank you for helping us prepare what you do, and we're grateful. Just want to say a big thank you.
So thank you so much. So we have 2 minutes. We've received the correspondence from Labor Skills and Immigration in regards to information that hadn't been provided in our last meeting. Just acknowledging that all the members have received the correspondence. And no discussion from that. We also have a letter from Canadian Federation of Independent Business, who's requested to appear before the committee as per the normal practice. When a outside stakeholder does notify our committee, we usually put it back to the caucuses to put it in their next round of agenda setting and topic selection. So I'll put that out there, acknowledging that we did receive the letter from the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Sorry? Oh, you had more, David? No? Okay, sorry. So we've received that letter. And with that, if there's no more business, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June the 3rd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. The topic will be employment and economic outcomes of the 2S LGBTQIA+. Witnesses will be Public Service Commission, Mount St. Vincent University, Dr. Jacqueline Gahagan, Canadian 2S LGBTQI+, Chamber of Commerce, Immigrant Services, the Association of Nova Scotia, the Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance, Office of Equity and Anti-Racism, Department of Growth and Development. So with that, committee, we stand adjourned. Thank you.